I am the nature hacker, and this is your world. Today I want to talk about water-based diesel fuel. So, I've been thinking about this for a long time, how to get a diesel engine to run on water. And originally, I was thinking that the amount of work that you get from the water vapor expanding once it turns to steam is actually greater than the amount of work it takes to change the state of the water from liquid to gas. But that turns out to be actually false. I reran the equations, and it turns out that per mole of water it takes 40.7 kilojoules to change it from a liquid to a gas at 100 degrees Celsius. And the amount of work that you get from that expanding gas is only 22.9 kilojoules. So that means that every mole of water that you need to change its state, you are losing 17.8 kilojoules. So, you know what, when I figured that out, that kind of made more sense to me. You know, now it's not like I'm getting astronomical amounts of free energy, but it's like we're actually losing some energy. You know, work is equal to energy, they're the same things. I'm actually losing some energy, but not in a way that's unsurmountable. So I figured out how much, let's say, diesel fuel would be needed to compensate for that, and it turns out to be, you know, like when you're taking into account the efficiency loss and all that, it's like 10% diesel fuel. So 90% water, 10% diesel fuel, you can kind of chug along. So that's good. I mean, those numbers really made sense, and they were what I was shooting for anyway. You know, about 10% fuel, 90% water is what I was going for. But so I don't really want to use diesel fuel. I don't like it. So, and anyway, to emulsify 10% diesel into water is actually pretty hard to do anyway. So, I have this substance called humic acid, and you know, this is the benefit of being a chemist, mechanical engineer, nutritionist, biologist, is that I can make these connections and no one else has. So humic acid is actually a hydrocarbon. It's a biological hydrocarbon that's actually fully water soluble. So yeah, that's basically what it is. You can make humic acid from compost. You know, if you did if you took like really ripe, you know, just that rich black dirt type compost, and you added some sodium carbonate, I believe is what they did in old research. Sodium carbonate. You add the sodium carbonate water to that, and then filter it out, and that liquid is your humic acid solution, and it should be brown, like brownish black liquid. That's humic acid right there. And then what they do is they evaporate that off, and they sell it in little granular humic acid form. So I did calculations, and taking into account that you know, basically what I did is I looked at the work or the energy content of lignite, which is the stuff that they extract humic acid from. So humic acid's gonna have more energy content than lignite, but that's the closest thing I could find, and that is 6.86 megajoules per pound, and that's how much energy is in lignite. So we needed 17.8 kilojoules in our mole, which is 18 milliliters of water, to just break even, you know, so that there's so it doesn't shut the motor down basically. And that comes out to be 9.36% humic acid weight per volume. So if you have dry humic acid, that's 9.36% humic acid to water. So using the density of humic acid, which is actually 0.8, at least my humic acid is 0.8. So anyway, what we're looking at is 1 tablespoon of humic acid in 100 mils of water. But there's 62% engine loss, so that's only 38% you're actually getting. So what that turns out to be is 2.5 tablespoons of humic acid in 100 milliliters of water. So there's that. Now, the cool thing about humic acid mixed in water is it's actually like, for one, it binds up any minerals. That means that you can use just crummy tap water, and the humic acid will make it soft. The humic acid will remove the minerals from the water, binds them up. So that's really good. That means you don't have to use expensive distilled water. You can use just whatever water you want: stream water, well water, tap water, whatever. Another thing about humic acid is that not only is it a chelator, which means that it's binding up those minerals, but it's also a detergent, a slight detergent. So what that means is it can dissolve some extra oil. So it can dissolve itself. It's a hydrocarbon, and it can dissolve itself in water, but it's also can dissolve a little more oil than that in water. So it turns out, from my experiments, that if you're blending it using a stick blender or commercial whatever blender, you can get 1 tablespoon of oil to dissolve in 1 cup of humic acid. So that's the extra oil that you can do. So what my recipe turns out to be is taking into account how much volume humic acid displaces, which is 20%. Like, let's say, well, it's not 20%. It's about 50% of its weight is turned into volume in water. So like, let's say you add 40 grams of humic acid to 100 mils of water, that would be 120 mils of water total after you mixed them. So after taking that into account, here's the recipe. To make 1 liter of water-based diesel, you mix in 1.5 cups of humic acid. So let's say you have a 1 liter blender, which is what I have. So I put in 1.5 cups of humic acid. I put in 1.5 tablespoons of vegetable oil. I use canola oil. So 1.5 cups of humic acid, 1.5 tablespoons of any type of oil you want. It can be waste oil, whatever. And then vol it up, which means just pour in water until it hits the 1 liter mark. And that turns out to be 833 milliliters of water. So you do that, 1.5 cups of humic acid, 1.5 tablespoons of oil, and bring that up to 1 liter total volume using water, and then blend that, and you end up with stuff like this. And this is your water-based diesel fuel. And it has to be diesel. It has to be diesel because it's, it has a high compression ratio. Diesel compression ratio is like 20%. Try putting some of this. So this is my water-based diesel fuel. It's totally all natural and everything. It's healthy for plants and animals. Yeah, so this stuff, it's a great thing because it's totally 100% biodegradable. You can make it with compost. I mean, you don't have to be dependent on the gas pump. You can compost your human waste and turn it into that black dirt, extract the humic acid from it, and power a car with it, power a diesel engine. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, you're basically just using a little bit of vegetable oil and compost to run a diesel engine, and that's pretty much as green as you can get. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So that is my water-based diesel fuel. I'm going to be buying a 4.5 horsepower diesel engine. Within the next month I will have it, so I will do a follow-up video when I actually use this in that engine and see if it works. What I'm going to what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the engine running on kerosene with some vegetable oil mixed in to help make it more lubricative. So that will be my base fuel. I'll get the engine all warmed up on that, and then I will switch to this stuff and see how it works and see if that does work. Switching to that stuff, and I know it will. So that's that. So I will keep you posted on my experimentation, but now you have just witnessed water-based diesel fuel. I am the nature hacker. Do work.